excited about having us on there.
Good, good.
Are you all right?
Oh, I'm a little tired, but yeah, I'm fine. And I see that his following is growing nicely, so that's good.
1,200 since that video.
Yeah. So when I looked this morning, he was up to like 4,500 or something.
He's at 5 now.
5, great, great. Keep going.
I won't tell you what my one the my one goal was of never mind, of a certain
Yeah,
person.
yeah. He wants to. I mean, we all have goals in life, and Judah's grand ambition is not the great American novel. It is not a symphony. It is simply to exceed in numbers, a person of such charismatic magnetism that people write checks with so many commas in the line reserved for the amount that not only do the banks have to enlarge the checks, the people who write them before this person even enters the room and says,
Oh,
I need your help.
Caroline, that would have been a great meme of Lewis paused.
Yes.
Anyways, you get the point. You guys ready to start?
sure.
I want to welcome everyone to the 4Esoterics. No politics allowed on this podcast, but we do have other podcasts where we allow podcasts, politics, and podcasts. And
What a start.
everybody's freezing up. Caroline, if you could get you froze up there for a second too. And we do not discuss politics here. We discuss many things of many things. And you could find us on Parler, on Twitter, on YouTube at the number 4Esoterics. Like us, love us, go to YouTube. We are joined today by, of course, the greatest managing editor of any publication in the United States, in the world, Ben, Mr. Spades Boychuk.
Hi, how are you?
And of course, the esoteric himself, Louis Fine, and producer girlfriend is joining us today, gratefully, as she is teaching me how to manage and work this stuff. So wish me all good luck in doing that because she can't always be here. So, guys, one of the things I wanted to discuss today, Ben, you missed Friday. Louis was absolutely exceptional with talking about his experiences during this thing. But one of the things producer girlfriend brought up to me today was the producer girlfriend. Why don't you bring it up since it was your topic you thought of?
So I've been using this analogy quite a bit. Pre-COVID, everyone walked around with what I would call like a small baggage, like the type of baggage that you would, take on a plane with you. Our baggage was small. But now that we're in COVID and we've been here a couple months, I feel like everyone's baggage, which again, once was a carry-on, has now become 2 carry-ons, 2 checked bags, and a 3rd checked bag so large and so heavy that you have to pay the extra $125, right? That's, essentially what it's become. Like everything that was small in our lives has become I've lost my word.
Magnified?
Thank you. Magnified.
You, Louis, I'm rubbing off.
I was about to say that. That's what's scary, that you and I are sharing the same thought about your
yeah.
Otherwise cogent producer girlfriend, yes. I hear you.
But the truth is, like, we had encountered something with a quasi friend of ours recently, and we both looked at each other and we're like, why is this person acting the way they are? And I was just like, because their baggage is so full, they're paying extra $125 to put it on the plane right now. And so I thought, well, that would be a really interesting topic of just
analogy.
That's a really good topic to discuss. Walking through life right now during this COVID time, knowing that everyone's paying extra to deal with their baggage. So that's why I'm bringing to today's show.
And I will go to you, Ben Boychuk, on comments on that.
Well, first of all, I can't wait for Lewis to unload on this, but
Yeah, me too.
yeah, but no, that's a thought because you know, for a lot of us, as we've talked on the show a few times, we've all been in therapy for years, and we have in our own various ways acquired and shed quite a lot of baggage. I think in my case, probably quite a lot in just the past 5 or 6 years. And so, yeah, I think that, I think it's true. And the only thing that has kind of really kept me going, at least in part, is that I don't have to commute to an office. I don't have to, you know, I've got to take care of my mother. I've got 2 kids, of course, that I have to take care of, and so and navigating the unique challenges, for example, of school in this era has been interesting, different. I'll talk a little bit later about what my daughter told me the other day about how she is coming to terms with Zoom school, but yeah, I think that's right. And I would just, you know, we've talked a few times about the growth and the use of anti-anxiety meds. I just saw something in the New York Times, I think on Sunday, about the rise in the suicide rate. And so, but that's an awful lot of baggage, though. I mean, to go from a carry-on to another carry-on and 2 check bags and the big, what, like golf clubs, you think? Or
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
well, see, now here's the thing. Golf clubs, that is for me an extra bag that I would be happy to take.
Right. Yeah, right. So maybe some of these burdens are more manageable than others, maybe.
Right, but it's also, I think, to her point, and we'll get to Lewis right after this, to her point too, is that, you know, we have to look at people more a little bit now with kindness of what they might be going through.
Mm-hmm. Because their
You know,
heavier.
Sorry?
Their burdens are heavier.
Their burdens are heavy, and realize that we don't know what's going on in their life in that day. And in the days of COVID, everything is so like it's, you know, a ton of extra that we have to be a little more kind, a little more forgiving, I myself included, for that. And with that, Lou, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Well, before we kick it over to Lewis, I just wanted to raise one other thing while we're setting the table. I see a lot more anger.
Yeah.
A lot, I mean, real, not just, I mean, like aggressiveness. You know, I was out on the other day. Must have been Saturday, and I made an unusual trip down the mountain, and had to go to Target, and I'm walking through the parking lot, putting on my mask, and there's a guy walking next to me, and he was putting his mask on, and he was so angry about it. He's like, "This is bullshit, man," telling me, right? And I said, "Oh, it's no fun," but just really angry. And I see this, when I go out, I see this a lot. I mean, people are very edgy, very, you know, it's almost like they're looking for a fight, and so that's certainly the kind of baggage that I don't particularly care to see.
You bring up an interesting point. So 2 interesting points. So whenever someone is angry, the first thing I think of is, are they afraid of something or are they sad? Because those are the 2 roots of anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always curious, what exactly are people either sad or fearful of? Like, are they afraid that we're always going to have to wear masks? Are they afraid that we're going to infringe on their rights even more? Are they afraid that this pandemic is never going away? Are they sad this pandemic may never go away? And then that kind of brings to another point that you said, which people always seem to want to have a fight. I mean, maybe we just need to start like underground fight clubs everywhere so that people can get their tension out, you know, and have Brad Pitt and Ed Norton show up.
Maybe.
I mean, I know a ton of people who would show up to that fight club.
And
Right?
with that,
Yeah.
for the humor section, Lewis, fine.
So a few things. Let's be honest. The last time Ben Boychuk set a table was in 1986 at his parents' house. Do you even own a table? You eat off the floor. Now, about baggage, my rule is simple. Travel like a drug mule. Either in your ass or a paper bag. I once got on a Southwest flight from Burbank to San Francisco. I had a Brooks Brothers suit folded in a Ralph's shopping bag. That was my luggage. And I never understood, I still don't understand people who spend a fortune on luggage. Now, I do admire beautiful luggage, steamer trunks. Here's the problem. It's going to be manhandled and abused and scuffed, and it's meant for show. If I buy a $5,000 crocodile Hermes for $5,000 at Hermes, maybe I could get like a card holder for my non-existent business cards that I'll have made in a restroom. But let's say I get a $50,000 Hermes crocodile suitcase. You think I'm going to bring that to LAX and have some and tip some guy $1 or $2 to put a tag on it so it can get lost or stolen?
I love how Lewis, Ben, and producer girlfriend took your analogy. He took it literally.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to challenge
But
this.
here's the other thing. I want to, if you're smart, and I know you are, you're going to ride this COVID thing out for the rest of your life, because every day or every other day, there's a new side effect or symptom associated with COVID. So that can be your license to do anything.
It's pretty much like living in the valley, or living where Ben lives.
Yeah, you want to go to Saks Fifth Avenue buck naked? You can, and not be arrested, because someone could say, so long as you're with a companion, it's a COVID related side effect.
Lewis, you bring a good point, because I want to ask Ben this. Other than your mother, Ben, when was the last time anybody has asked you to help them move? Other than on the mountain, like nobody's calling you in Hollywood from Hollywood going, "Hey Ben, I'm moving today. Can you drive?" Or "I need to go to the airport. Can you give me a ride?"
Right. No, that I don't think that's happened in decades.
I see you whipping out a tablecloth to put on top of a tree stump.
What's wrong with
when
that?
you have dinner outside?
Sure, that's romantic, Lewis.
But that's totally cool. That's so cool.
But try sitting for an hour on a rock. Chair, it's right over there.
Well, but Lewis, you actually, whoever it was that brought up the great point, is that yes, I do believe that people are going to be using this as an excuse for a while to come. After we get out of this, people are going to listen. You guys know I'm sober. At the end of meetings, people hold hands. I've never been a hand holder. I've always put my arms around people because I don't like holding hands with people I don't know, barely with people I do know. So after COVID, I'm going to be like this.
I got two hand holding stories for you. True.
I'm going to be like this. Yeah.
One, I don't know why I did it, but I did. I participated in Hands Across America. Google that, folks, in Teaneck, New Jersey. Why? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Secondly, I was at a potluck Thanksgiving my first year in Los Angeles, which was the last potluck dinner I've been to. And the host asked everyone to hold hands as we went around to say what we were thankful for. And as I'm holding the sweaty palm of this guy to my right, who considered himself an artist. Why? Because he sold bagels that he had dipped in resin. That was his art. He sold bagels that he dipped in resin. And to my left was some woman who was also, I later discovered, a very aged, I'll put this in quotes, escort. And I didn't realize that the occasion was an invitation for everybody to speak minimum 20 minutes apiece. They get to me. What are you thankful for, Lewis? My response, that my hands haven't fallen asleep. And yeah, I don't want to touch anybody.
And by the way, just for the record, I want to tell you, producer girlfriend Ben, help me remember this, because Lewis accidentally brought up a great show topic, which is your first year in Los Angeles. Because producer girlfriend, I'm sure, has some amazing stories. I have some amazing stories, because when you first move out here, you accept almost any invitation sometimes. So, you know, because you're new. And
Yes.
and those were some awkward first year parties or places or things you ended up getting invited to in your first year in Los Angeles. At least I've been.
I got a great story for that one.
No, I mean, there's tons, but thank you, Phil, for joining in. If you just tuned in, you are listening to the 4Esoterics, No Politics Allowed. We're discussing the added baggage today of the, in Lewis's case, literal, but we were referring figuratively to the extra baggage brought on by the COVID experience and being a little more tolerant. And with that, producer girlfriend, why don't you tell us a little bit about Colleen's Better Than?
The other day, I got home from work and my 2 little girl pups came up to me and they gave me this face. And that face that they gave me was, Mom, I think you should have a glass of water and you should get a bag of what we call grandma sticks, also known as Colleen's Better Than breadsticks. My girls, Evie and Sabrina, absolutely love that salty, cheesy, spicy pandemic treat. And you can get it on colleensbetterthan.com. Now, my girls get it from Mom, who gets it from Grandma, but you should get yourself some Colleen's Better Than breadsticks from colleensbetterthan.com.
Producer girlfriend?
Yeah. I'm trying to make it like a little bit better than normal.
No, and you did a good job, but just a rule of advice going forward, when you refer to your girls, unless you're talking about your breasts,
No,
nobody cares. I'm just telling you. I want you to sell as many breadsticks as possible.
Ben,
You know, I mean, that might sell more breadsticks, but policy is generally to go with the family version.
Yeah, when you talk
So, like,
about,
for
look,
example, when my mom goes out and she's selling breadsticks, she always says, my daughter's choice is buffalo blue cheese. That happens to also be Evie and Sabrina's choice. We didn't, you know, there's other flavors we don't like as much as the buffalo blue cheese.
But if you say my girls love a hearty dose of buffalo blue cheese,
we're a family.
You're going to sell a lot.
3-generation, multiple fur babies eating Colleen's Better Than breadsticks.
Ben, just for the record, this is where Lewis gets it all out. This is pre-Ben Stein. This is like let Lewis everything out on the 4Esoterics like he needs. Let him get his therapy here. You know, it's all good. We love Lewis. And
no, sir, the PLO was never nonviolent. Oh,
thank you. Noted. And on that note, of course, welcome. Caroline is your biggest fan, by the way.
I know.
My mother,
great.
My mother thinks you're brilliant.
Esther,
Scary,
I hope you had a good fast.
Scary, but brilliant. And welcome back. And we're talking about the extra baggage, like just that people, which came to the next point of excuses that after we get through this, people will be using. Because people, Ben, aren't going to want that. We work in a different format than most, but people aren't going to want to go back to work. You know, some people might, you know, they're going to say, well, I can just as easily do it.
You mean the office? There's a story that ran, I think, yesterday or today in the New York Times, perhaps, but I did see it. I did see it late last night that said, no, excuse me. The New York Times. It's in the American Conservative, and it's an article that says "Good riddance to the office." That about how so many people who are working from home are not going back to the office.
Can I make a point about that?
Sure.
So here's what I have a problem with from a labor perspective. Yep, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for 1 second. I don't mind the dissolution of the American office, but what I have a problem with is companies then are saving so much money in water, power, air conditioning, all the utilities, and not passing that along to the labor who suddenly have to perhaps get higher Wi-Fi or are using their utilities at home and spending their money. So I don't have a problem with people not going back to work.
I'm with you there.
I have a problem with those expenditures not being passed down as we call it in the industry like a kit fee, you know what I mean, or some sort of utility fee.
Okay, so here's a better question for you,
And
Ben.
I'm sorry if that's political, but that is. I'm really pissed off about this.
So I have a question for Ben, which sort of relates to this, because you're talking about a certain how many people, Ben, you get articles submitted all the time, right?
Right.
You're constantly in a state of editing.
Right.
So how have people been slacking in the last 7 months or 6 months, as far as grammar, as far as were they more on the ball before the COVID, or?
No, they weren't. I find myself correcting the same mistakes from the same people. That hasn't really changed. I do think though that the volume has gone up, so people seem to have more time to write, but the quality of the writing hasn't improved or deteriorated appreciably, at least from my point of view. The people who were half-assing it, before the world ended, are still half-assing it now.
So, producer girlfriend, getting back to it, you're right. I mean, companies are going to be looking at this as ways of, people don't realize it is, this is actually going to, to Lewis, and this is actually going to be a devastating effect, because for years we're as a society, we're terrified of being automated. Right, and there is a fear of people really should, the second they have a chance, get back on the job site, because you don't know how automated you could become.
Well, I think that's still true, and that's probably still true for a lot of industries. But Lewis, you made an observation at the outset of this whole thing. You predicted that this would herald the end of human resources departments. Well, how has that worked out in your opinion?
Like anything else, anything that's been institutionalized is powerful and powerful enough to resist. So have the heads of HR departments gone willingly into the night? No. Has the have companies attempted to surveil their employees as their employees work from home? Yes,
they have.
Has there been pushback? Yes. But it's going to be a lot harder for HR people to police workers who are exchanging jokes via private messenger, or telling jokes to someone in the other room, or, God forbid, acting like human beings. So there has been pushback. I think there will continue to be pushback, and it's hard to police what you don't see, because the myth about the office, in part, is the myth of control. If everyone is in this space, they will be working, as opposed to most of the people in this space who come to work don't work. And if you give people deadlines, regardless of where they are, either the work is done or it's not. Do you think someone in a war zone goes to an office to file his story for the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times? No, he has a deadline. And if he doesn't meet the deadline, he's dead. His career is dead. So it's a matter of surrendering control by corporations, which I don't think they will do willingly, but it's incumbent upon employees to say, I do the work. That's what I'm paid for. I am not giving you the freedom to take screenshots of my laptop, which is positioned on the desk in my bedroom or living room. What matters is the work, not the sites I visit on my computer, not your computer, on the connection I pay for.
Right.
And
okay, so going back, so Louis, on your comment right now, which is great, here's a bigger problem. Producer girlfriend could join in. I'm sure Ben, you can too. We've lost boundaries, right, with work wise, of people when they feel like they could get in touch with you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's like this pre-pandemic, you know, they you know, companies were setting up rules, but people were scared to death, right? Like if your boss texts you or emails you at 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
you have, you know, who's going to say, well, you know, we have a company policy that says I don't have to respond. You're going to respond. So a fear also could be, Louis or Ben and producer girlfriend, is that we are going to lose all boundaries if people do not go back to work, because they're going to feel like you're on the clock 24/7.
Okay.
well, that's you're right about that, but that speaks to a larger issue, which we've talked about in previous shows. Manners. Don't
Social
expect
graces.
Right. Don't expect corporations to be incubators of civility, manners, freedom, liberty, and personal independence. If that starts at home, it starts within society, and a society that doesn't value manners should not have citizens who expect corporations to honor what they don't know and what they, as a result, don't promote. So the pushback has to come from workers. Say, here's my schedule, and I'm like the Mogwai. I'm like the Mogwai. Okay. After this hour, feed me or get me wet, and I turn it.
Yeah, but Louis,
if you're a man,
So
and I turn into a demon.
Louis, you're blessed in some ways that you don't have to, that you could set your limits.
Well, not true, because
Really.
because if I were blessed with an abundance of work, it would be a different thing, and I would have to negotiate around or navigate around this. What I am cursed with in this time are the bottom feeders. Case in point, Friday, after a series of emails and answering this person's question about what do I get for my money, and I explained very clearly, this is what you get, this is what I do. He writes back, someone said they would give me 8,000 media contacts for this amount, which was $200 less than I had quoted him, and about 300 more, 400 more, 1,000 more contacts than I had given him. So I replied, then hire that person. You know, it's like, why are we having this conversation? So
Louis, hold on a second. We're gonna take a quick break. We need you to reboot. Having some sound issues with you. And Ben, you don't hear that?
No, I'm only hearing it from you, actually.
yeah, me too.
You're a bit choppy. If you have to reboot, then this whole thing goes into the dumper, so we don't necessarily.
Yeah, I can't do that. Okay, my bad.
Well, I'll speak to it while I'll speak to this while Louis is coming back.
No, I was going to say, Ben, tell us a little bit about AM Greatness and producer girlfriend. You get there.
All right. So obviously, if you're listening to this, we don't talk about politics on this show very much, if at all, but American Greatness is all about politics, and we're having a banner traffic day, by the way. You're going to want to visit us at amgreatness.com 7 days a week, where you're going to find writers like Conrad Black, Ed Ring, Julie Kelly. Liz Sheld's Morning Greatness is burning up social media. Great piece today by George Bardmesser on the Night of the Living Dead campaign of Joe Biden. You can find all of that and more at American Greatness, www.amgreatness.com.
Welcome back. My sincerest apologies, Lewis. It was my volume that stinks. Producer girlfriend, what were you going to say? Sorry.
So I agree with this, with the lack of social, I call it social graces in today's environment. I work a job where on show nights, I wake up at 3 a.m. and check my phone in case there's an issue, but that's my job. Do you know what I mean? I have to keep my phone on. But I've done little things to create boundaries. Like, for example, I put certain people on the emergency bypass of my phone. So I may tell a producer I work with, you're on the emergency bypass, so you can call me. But I'm not going to allow these 6 other people to call me. If there's an issue, you're the person who's going to call me. You're the person who's going to authorize the billing, right? But furthermore, like, I'm part of an organization that I don't get paid for, that I spend a lot of service time with, and I won't say what it is just because, but it's an organization. And early on in COVID, I had someone call me at 8:30 at night to air a grievance, and I didn't call them until the next morning, and they were pissed off. And I said to them, I'm sorry, but during this COVID time, I am turning off my phone after 7:30 at night to have family time. And he goes, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had a family. And I said, what does that mean? And he goes, well, you're not married and you don't have kids. And I said, I live with my boyfriend and we have 2 little girl fur babies, and it is my time with them. And since I don't get this time during non-pandemic world, I'm taking it during the pandemic world, and it's going to bleed into my regular life. And so from that time on, I realized if I don't start to set boundaries, people are going to walk all over my time.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, Lewis, this is where you're correct in that the labor movement is going to have to start to set those boundaries. Like, when I grew up in a very Catholic neighborhood, Sunday, you did not work. It was family time.
Right. But it was
Saturdays
different because
you know what I mean? Like but
Sunday was special because within your neighborhood, you could also hunt someone like Judah. Like, you got a waiver every Sunday.
No. The Judah in my town lived a mile away, and there was only one family. So
he's referring to the 70s Judah and the Skokie riots.
Right, exactly. But here's another thing, producer girlfriend. See, this is where you don't have to work again. And not worry about bills, because the exchange you just summarized is enough based on your gender, with some embellishment when you take the stand, to get a settlement. So you don't have to work again. File the suit after you find a labor lawyer, because this is a perfect setup for, throw in a little bit of Me Too, and you're going to get a nice check, and everything's going to be okay.
Well, to be fair, Lewis, I'm on my way to my labor law degree.
and I think this goes to
do
Ben
it myself.
Boychuk, and I want to get to Ben Boychuk, because Ben actually raised, has raised an exceptionally brilliant point in the past, and it's something people don't like to talk about, but it's something producer girlfriend just brought up. Religion, the lack of and loss of religion in our country has had a huge, I believe, impact on this, right? Because observant Jews put their phones down for 25 hours starting Friday night. They don't look at Lewis. They don't look at their phones.
I wouldn't last. I'd have to make a fake phone.
They don't watch television. They separate themselves from the world. And to quote a friend of mine one time, when I was newly sober, he said to me, he asked me to go do something, and I said, oh, I'm busy. And he said, the world lives without you for 22 years. It could live without you for a couple of hours. And I think we've lost that, Ben, like that feeling with the lack of religion, or the lack of taking that time, whatever religion it is, just putting down the phone, family dinners, You know, that's where really we've allowed ourselves to
Well,
get
two
to-
things.
No,
Two-
let me
two-
get the
Wait,
banner.
Okay.
wait. Yeah, hold on. So you're talking about the sort of the disappearance of civic life, right?
Yeah.
You know that we several months ago we talked about third places. You know, what we're really talking about is the disappearance of a social life that's neither strictly family life or professional life. But you're also talking about the disappearance of or the fight to preserve family life, whatever it might be, or just a private sphere, whatever that might be, the time that you and producer girlfriend spend together with your pups, or whatever it happens to be. Like in my case, I have my Monday night card game, which is sacrosanct.
Support group.
It's not, well, kind of, yeah, in a way.
Thank you.
No, but what, in a way, yes, because it's not professional, it's personal, it's friends, it's cultivating friendships. It's having a time that isn't about work. I won't take calls. I usually don't check texts except for you. That got a big laugh last night, by the way. Judah broke the rule. He texted me and said, "Go nil," because we play spades. And I showed that to
I do.
everybody.
I leave you alone during those times, but I just thought it was funny.
But it was very funny. I showed it to everybody around the table, and I said, "This is somebody who knows that I have this card game," and everybody laughed. And so, but that you have to insist on those time. You have to fight for your time. You have to fight for your time. But I wanted to go back for a minute to the discussion earlier, sort of really talking about is freedom versus control. And so Lewis made a good point about, hey, if I'm working at home and it's my equipment, I'm paying for the Wi-Fi connection. Well, producer girlfriend, you make a similarly valid point that maybe the companies that are saving money on utilities at the offices they're no longer going to need should kick some of that over to the workers who have higher electricity bills or faster Wi-Fi or whatever. Well, is there not an implication there of a trade-off between freedom and control? So if your employer says, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll subsidize your Wi-Fi bill, but in exchange for that, we're going to want to know a little bit more about what you're doing." Is that a valid trade-off in your view, or is that impermissible?
Yeah, I would like to speak to this.
I would love for you to speak
for a second.
Because I'm so technically inclined, when I have brought together a department full of workers, I've had shows come in and say, "We want you to use our email address when talking about work." And I generally jump the gun on that, and I make us all Gmail accounts. You know what I mean? Like Jillian.theshowname@gmail.com. And then I have control over that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you in that if a corporation is paying for your internet or is paying for utilities or is paying for that, they probably do have more control than you would like over those utilities. What I don't like is the fact that they're going to continue to get write-offs for those utilities at a smaller percentage, right? Because the utilities aren't being used in the workplace, and that's not being passed down to the employee that cannot write off an at-home office,
right,
because they're an employee and not a vendor or independent contractor.
Right.
So yes, you are probably right in that if a employer pays for your internet service, they may require you to go through some sort of VPN type service where they can track and monitor all of the websites that you're pursuing during work time. You're probably right.
Right.
Can we talk about Ben's decision arrived at. When did this book come out? Because I just want to, yeah, his decision circa 1990 to live as Iron John, and his many return to sender fan mail letters that he sent to Robert Bly about having read his mind, Robert Bly having read Ben's mind, and about this this Monday night men's movement support group, which is good because the alternative is blowing up a federal building. The other thing is kudos to the Orthodox, because I would have had to, this is why I can't live as an Orthodox Jew. And I'm saying this with admiration and respect for the Orthodox, because I'd have to borrow one of producer girlfriend's bricks that would otherwise have been used, well, hurled toward a running 11-year-old Judah, and with chalk, make the face of an iPhone on this brick, and in a schizophrenic break, talk to it during Shabbat, because the thing is in my bed and I just read on it. I don't play games. I don't have any apps that destroy neurons. I try to add to my brain power.
You would need like a Wilson of phones, like Wilson, like from
Wilson.
Yeah.
My Wilson would need girls and a box. Okay.
Louis, you actually raised a great point though, because when you walk on La Brea in certain areas, you actually see kids, playing hopscotch. You know, like they
because that's a safe place to play it.
No, but in our neighborhood down the street, we've seen that.
Yeah.
It's
sort of a there should be, there should be people put down your phones for a certain amount of time. It's extremely dangerous.
Well, I sponsor a Wednesday night McDonald's Double Dutch jump rope contest at Crenshaw around 2 a.m. So if anybody's interested, you just drive down there, and we wear fluorescent patches on our clothing and stuff.
Hey, do you give out that McDonald's orange
I just
drink?
love the imagery you've set up for where Ben Boychuk lives. It's just, it's like, I can't get it out of my mind sometimes.
You know that painting? You know the painting of the dogs playing poker?
Uh-huh.
It's based on an actual event.
Ben,
it's wildlife playing poker with
Ben.
Ben.
Is there a town sheriff?
There's a county sheriff that operates up here. I'm just so
who's
grateful.
Also the coroner, who's also the superintendent of schools, who's also a mortician, who's also a pilot, who's also a radio announcer,
who also owns the general store.
Right.
And he's the notary.
Right. Of course.
What time's the judge arrive? You're looking at him. I thought you were the sheriff. I am.
I want everybody to know, and I'm so happy that as of last Thursday, I no longer have to dig holes on my back hill.
Okay.
You're no longer composting.
We gotta go there.
Okay, no. I just want to say something. Ben, can I share the text you sent me the other day when you were installing?
Yeah.
Ben sends me a text, Lewis, and producer girlfriend Caroline Phil, that and my mother, that he's installing 2 new toilets into his house.
Wait, were you new toilets, or were you replacing old ones?
Replacing old ones,
okay.
Yes.
One that hadn't been used. One
had not been used in 4 years.
Whoa. Now, what's it like to have one extra toilet? I mean, that's got to be freeing.
I don't have to run up the stairs.
What's it like to have working toilets?
Well, it's so great. Like I said, I don't have to dig holes on my back hill anymore.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. No, it's so nice. I of course the trouble is I'm getting less exercise because I don't have to run upstairs.
Yeah.
You want a septic system?
No, believe it or not, I have. I mean, I'm talking to you. I have electricity. I have a phone.
No, but
I have
half
working
of Palm
internet.
Springs is on septic systems.
Yeah, but Ben was the only person until Friday who could say in truth, when some of us have relieved ourselves, it feels as if we've lost a considerable amount of weight. He's the only one who actually burned calories on his way to and from the bathroom.
That's correct.
And that's over.
It was a way. And by the way, for the record, producer girlfriend's correct, because a certain person we know's house in Malibu, we walked into it about 4 years ago, and I go, God, it smells like you know what in here. And it was the septic tank.
Oh,
I didn't even know those still existed.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
they do, but
Yeah,
not.
they
I'm
do.
on-
Well,
I'm on
especially
sewer.
in a beach community like Malibu,
Yeah.
they're all septic. And how did this person not know?
Because he barely goes to the house.
Oh,
When you go to the house once every couple weeks, there, but getting back to it, so I just want to bring up an interesting event. Something I thought about is my brother-in-law, who works for in the fire department in New York. I always joke that he's got one of the few jobs that, policemen, certain types of jobs that they get to go on when they go on vacation. It's not like when my brother-in-law goes on vacation, they say, we'll save the patients that he's got to go pick up for 2 weeks. So he doesn't come back to like 10 people, still saying they were having a heart attack. Those people
sure.
have already been treated. And I think we've lost the idea of vacations too, because people have this with them. There is no vacation anymore.
Yeah, no one's texting a firefighter who's on vacation in Florida saying, listen, got a 5 alarm in Brooklyn.
That's exactly.
There's a JetBlue leaving Orlando. I'll be there.
Right. That's exactly right. Except in the case of the fires in Florida and in California, who we need every firefighter in the country to come here. But, it's like the separation of it makes me more scared, getting back to it, that we are going to lose all boundaries from working from home. That people will not know how to put down their computer because it's all access. It's literally like living in the Truman Show. It'll be like we are on call all the time.
I noticed there was a story again yesterday. I either the Washington Post or the New York Times talking about what it's like to be on college campuses now. And many universities are insisting that students, for example, wear, I think they call them bio buttons, that not only kind of track their whereabouts, but also monitor can essentially monitor their health, can tell if they're exhibiting symptoms. And one college or someplace in particular in the Midwest or closer to back east is requiring students to get permission before they leave town.
So
the hell
here's
with
what
that.
you do.
Yeah.
No, not to hell with that. You get it. Thank you. And then here's what you do. Students, if you're listening, this is what you do. You drive to the nearest cemetery, you put it on top of a headstone, and you drive away.
Yeah.
That's all.
This is when
put it on your dog.
This is
that's still the hell with that in so many words. I mean, you're not saying it, but you're still the hell with that.
You haven't moved in 140 hours. Yeah, I'm just really into this book.
Producer girlfriend, would you like to add to this?
Well, my first thought is those have to be private colleges. They can't be public universities.
Yeah, I think they were all
like smaller private. Yeah.
But I'm also trying to find out, like a friend of mine, his daughter just started at UCLA, and I'm trying to get the rundown on what the story is over there. What students are free to do and not free to do. Because I think there's a lot of that. I mean, I talk to my son from time to time about this. He's gonna do a couple of years at community college and then transfer because it's cheaper that way. But he took this semester off because he's working, and also it just doesn't make sense to. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to go to college right now, frankly.
By the way, you were going to share a story about your daughter.
Well, yeah, I want to get to that. So I was going to seg into that. So this is where I think it kind of, so years ago, I used to write a lot about education reform and education policy, and online learning was sort of this this wave of the future. And the idea was that, well, you can tailor the curricula to, individuals, and have a lot more flexibility and time and whatever. Well, that's not what public schools are doing. All public schools are really doing is they're doing the same curriculum, they're doing the same lessons, and they're having all the kids be on Zoom at the same time. And then there are stretches of time where they're given independent time, what really all they're doing is just classwork offline or not on Zoom. So that's not really the best use of online learning. But I always ask my daughter, I've been asking my daughter, well, how do you like it now? Because back in the spring, it was really kind of chaotic. So how do you like it now? How is it going for you now? And she said something that I thought was, it was sort of stunning, but then I understood why. Bear in mind, she's 12 years old in middle school. And she said, and so think about, producer girlfriend, think about when you were 12 years old in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Zoom classes better because I like being able to stay at home, because when I go to school, I feel anxious.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth.
As a 12-year-old girl, first off, junior high, middle school for a girl is probably the worst 3 years of your life.
Sure.
You could not pay me to go back to 6th,
Sure.
7th, and 8th grade.
Sure.
So if
Sure.
I had Zoom during that time where I didn't have to worry about the mean girls, or you're going through puberty and I sweat so much, you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
When you don't have to worry about that, I wonder if we're going to end up having stronger, more focused, more
maybe
more well-educated women one day.
Ben, I have a question for you. Does your daughter go to a school where they have school uniforms?
No.
See, I got to be honest with you. I'm very pro the school uniforms, and I
Yeah.
believe every kid in America should be supplied 5 or 6 school uniforms at the beginning of the year, because there's no worse thing than going to your first day of school feeling like you don't match up.
Right.
That, you're starting from.
Look at the kid in the weird shirt.
Yeah, that producer
Yeah.
girlfriend. Did you have yeah? I see, Lewis. One second. Producer girlfriend. Did you have school uniforms?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't have school uniforms because I went to public schools after it was deemed that I would not be able to go to a Catholic school because I would have been beaten with a ruler too much. Yeah, thank God. Thanks. That's the one good thing. Thanks, Dad. But I was very lucky in that my mother recognized the clothes situation was kind of an important one. And my mom, having studied fashion design, was also into clothes. So I didn't have to worry about that. But I did have to worry just about always feeling like the outsider. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you wear. You still feel like the outsider, even if you're somewhat on the inside.
The Lewis Fine story. Lewis, go ahead.
Yeah, 2 things, and then I just got a break for lunch, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
1, I absolutely support school uniforms for 25-year-old blondes, women specifically, size C and up. 2, the one downside of online learning and Zoom, the decline in bullying. And I say that with a lot of regret, because how are you going to bully someone on Zoom? And I feel bad for the Judas who are in school now that I could have been bullying, but there's that wall of separation.
So Lewis's biggest downside to all of the school thing is that there will be less trolls in the future.
Less bullying.
Yeah, I was being nice, Lewis. Trolls, bullies, and that is his takeaway. Lewis, thank you for your brilliant
And that I favor school uniforms.
Yes, and your favorite school uniforms. Eat well, Lewis.
Pleasure as always.
Of course.
But thank you, Lewis. But
can I go back to your daughter and the anxious thing?
Yes.
Because now I'm sitting here and I'm countering myself. Like, that's just my brain power. And I'm thinking, Yeah, but on the other hand, how is she learning those coping skills?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's hard.
Well, I mean, this is such new and uncharted territory. And so one metric that I've got is that her grades are very, very good.
See, I'm going to ask
Better, in fact, this year than they were last year.
So that's my question to you. Do you think, okay, so they do have studies, right? Where I grew up, obviously, I went to an all boys school, they do have studies when girls and boys are in class together, girls tend to sometimes do worse because they don't want to, they don't want to.
They're more concerned about how they're perceived by their peers and boys than they are concerned about the work in front of them.
Right. As opposed to juxtaposed to the Israeli army, where the whole reason with female soldiers, because they find that men are going to be a little more like, go to save their lives, risking their own, or in a sense. So my question to you is, and producer Go, I'm curious about this too, because you do a ton of Zoom meetings. Do you think women are going to come out of this much? I think women hold the advantage in this arena far more than men do, as far as getting better grades, doing better in school, acclimating to this.
I think that I can see that. I can definitely see women being stronger in a Zoom environment because there is that kind of wall of separation. And then at the end of it, you leave the meeting and you're not in the same room as that person. So if you stand up to someone, I'll give an example. In a meeting for that organization that I'm part of, we had a board meeting and a woman made a comment about how the previous boards have generally been older white men. And one of the older white men of the board stood up and countered her in a very aggressive way. And then she countered him in an aggressive way. And I'm not saying that she wouldn't have done that in person, but I think she did it because at the end of the day, she could turn off that Zoom, breathe, and walk away, as opposed to in a normal board situation, we all have to kind of commingle after, or you bolt out the door and everybody knows you're emotional about it. So I can see that people who in person aren't as strong could be stronger in these virtual environments. And that might not just be women, it might be men included. And thought.
All right.
By the way, producer girlfriend, I forgot to hit the record button, but you are recording it, thank God.
No,
I'm also recording it.
Oh, you were too?
Yeah.
Well, okay, we're training Judah.
It says recording. That's what got me confused.
Yeah, because I hit it.
Okay. That's my bad. That will not happen again.
You will have to remember to turn off the YouTube live record.
As much, I'm not,
here's the thing. When producer girlfriend, when you told him, make sure you record, that's when I hit the record button, because I knew that there was a better than 50-50 chance that he was going to screw it.
Better than 50-50.
To be fair, he did hit the live on YouTube, which we're trying to do more, right? Because it saves us the post-production process. So we are on live on YouTube. And I think the reason that his audio was fumbling is because I checked it twice, right?
Oh.
That's probably, so I've closed it, and since he's been fine. But we're making a checklist. So if anyone wants to become a Zoom tech manager, please let me know. Please DM me, and I would be happy to also send you.
By the way, Phil, you never bring up what you do. I'm always curious about what you do, Phil, and how you're dealing with the pandemic, because I know you have a hard time with the masks and stuff. So you could feel free to share it here or wherever. And Phil actually heard our pod with Ben Stein the other day. He actually enjoyed it very much. Phil was in the house, and but yeah, I just not the stereotype. I just think women are going to fare better with the Zoom schooling and the Zoom opportunities than some men might have.
We'll see. I'm a lot more positive about it than I was. I'm still down, very much down on the one size fits all approach, but to the extent that my daughter is not just surviving but thriving with it now, because back in the spring it was just a nightmare. I mean, she basically just gave up, and there was nothing that they could do about it. They essentially said, if you're not going to show up, there's nothing we can do. Grades, nothing really we can do.
Yeah.
But now, there's a little bit more order to it. She's been given a lot of responsibilities in the morning to really kind of get herself together and get online on her own. It's not like dropping off at school anymore.
Does she put on her same type of clothing she would go to school in?
Yeah. She showers, she gets ready, she gets dressed, all of that, which is good. I think that's very good. And
it's funny you say that. I never get people that shower at night. I need the shower in the morning
to get your blood pumping.
To get me going. It's like I don't get the people that I know parents have to shower and bathe their kids at night, but when you're grown up, if you could shower in the morning, I always anyways, that's just a side thought. But Phil works in IT in the nursing homes in Chicago. The reason, Phil, we're curious which ones is because I actually know quite a few owners of nursing homes in Chicago that all start with Glenn. So Phil, you're able to work from home, I would imagine. But no, but Ben, that's another thing. It's like you have to sort of keep the same, what's the word I'm looking for? The same routine.
You're right. Yeah, to some extent, yeah. What's missing though, the one thing that is missing, I think, is the ease of getting out of the house. I mean, really, my daughter is, I think, temperamentally more of a homebody, and so it's maybe indulged that in a way that may not be good. But I'm for me personally, I miss certain things. I was down in Saturday. I mentioned going to Target. I noticed I was down in Corona, and which I was seeing some friends. Movie theaters are beginning to open in certain places. One of the movie theaters down there was open. I was like, oh, wow. I really want to see Tenet on the big screen. And I was thinking, geez, maybe I want to make another trip down here and see a movie. Because I really miss that. But I still don't like having to go into stores where people just naturally gravitate to where you are in the produce aisle. And I know that the mask I'm wearing, I'm not really even wearing a proper mask. I'm usually wearing a bandana, and I know that doesn't do a damn thing.
It's probably better than the mask I use, which I use what is it called? The GERT, the thing you just pull up.
Oh yeah, those things. Well, they're about as effective as bandanas, and they're really not at all. And so I just wear them because I'm obliged to cover my face, and which is fine. I don't have an objection to that. I don't want people looking at me anyway. But I just don't. There's that low level sort of authoritarian anxiety that I get. And I'm resigning myself to the idea that a lot of this is it's going to be like this for indefinitely. I won't even presume to know how long it's going to be like this.
I'm curious how long people will wear masks for. Like when I think about when I went to China, people wear masks every day outside. Now the pollution there is really bad.
Right.
But I also wore a mask while I was there, but I'm curious to see how long.
My guess is it's just going to become a regular thing, because with SARS in Asia, I think it was just now something they do as a matter of course. Anytime they go out.
I truly hope you're wrong.
I hope I am too.
I pray you're wrong. By the way, it's the internet connection because I had lost you for a few seconds. We have a few things running on the internet. So yeah. And Phil is working out of a business and office in Evanston. I thought that was Indiana, Evanston, but maybe it's Chicago.
No, it's in the northern suburbs.
Illinois.
It's where Northwestern is.
I don't know. Yeah, but I pray you're wrong. I was watching a football game the other day, and it's so awkward. It was college football, and where some places like Tennessee or Arkansas, they're allowing fans, and then some stadiums are absolutely, kaput empty. And I pray to God we don't become Korea or Japan or one of these places where masks are part of our.
And yet, people can still go to the theater, and and people can go to concerts, and people. I guess we'll see when that comes back.
Yeah, it's I just, like I said to you the other time, I just wish people would say they don't know. I just wish people would say, from the president to scientists to everybody saying, we just don't know. Because it's just also so damn confusing. It's the confusion that we're going on right now, because we're able to all go to the supermarket and be, like you said, in the produce section, 2 inches apart, grabbing something like this. If somebody's 5'1", I'm grabbing something going, well, I'm above your height, by 6 feet, to how is that separate? How is that different than going to a concert if you're 6 feet away, or, going to a sporting event if you're 6 feet away? It's funny where it makes no sense. That alone doesn't make sense.
Right.
If everything is off limits, and everything is off limits, but if nothing, you get what I mean.
Right. Yeah, I get what you mean.
And then there's the idea you shouldn't put yourself in a dangerous situation, but a dangerous situation could also be sitting at home by yourself, watching endless hours of some dark BBC drama.
Sure.
So those are the things we have to weigh, Ben.
Right.
Movie theater, you might get sick, or home, and you face depression and suicide.
Right. Right.
And
Well,
on that
happy note, yeah.
Everybody's got to run. Ben Boychuk, managing editor of AM Greatness. You truly are a scholar and a fine individual. And Phil, thanks for sharing. Caroline, thanks for being here. Ema, thank you. I love you. Producer girlfriend, thank you for showing me the way and helping out with all of this stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great week, guys, and we will talk to you later.
And I'm going to stay on for a minute or 3.
Okay.
Make sure you stop the YouTube.
Okay, hold on. Wrong.
Done little things to create boundaries.
Okay, how do I hold on a second.
Certain people on the emergency bypass of my phone.
Hold on, we're still on it. I don't know how to stop it, producer girlfriend.
Okay, go to the, hold on.
I'm not going to allow these 6 other people to call me. If there's an issue, you're the person who's going to call me. You're the person.
Okay,
Are we
hold
on a 20-minute delay?
I think that's how YouTube works.
People can see your face.